Hello again, and welcome to another one of my videos spotlighting Blu-ray and 4K release reviews and such. This is a companion piece to my podcasts that I do, which can be found on Spotify, Apple, all those normal places where you go. The podcast is Adam's Corner. You can find the link at the bottom of the video in the description there if you are so inclined to seek out what I do. And this is a companion because once a month I do Blu-ray and 4K releases, and you really can't see what I'm talking about since it's an audio-based format. So, for those who want to see what I'm talking about, I'll give you a scoop on a few things. I'm getting ready to tape my July episode of the podcast where I spotlight the Blu-ray and 4K releases, but several of these that I'm getting ready to talk about have not been talked about on the podcast yet. They will be soon. So let's start, and this is quite a selection that I've got here, and we'll start with some of the Kino releases that we have, and one of the most anticipated ones would be Columbo: The Return. There you go. Let you get a look at the back of that. Columbo: The Return is the original show ended in 1978. It ran from 71 to 78, and there was a 1968 movie, of course. That set was released back in December of last year. It was a beautifully remastered set. The transfers were really, really good on those episodes, 4K remasters. It was a Blu-ray set, but 4K remasters. It really looked good. This set is no different in terms of quality. It's the quality is very high on these. Also remastered in 4K by NBC Universal. What you do get in this, and essentially, when the show ended in 78, it picked back up again in 89, and they cranked it back up again, and it ran until 2003, which is pretty amazing when you consider that Peter Falk, the star of the show, died only 8 years after the show left the air. So pretty amazing. So anyway, what do you get, you might ask? Well, what you get are 10 discs with the episodes of the show, and I'll show you how that's all housed here. And you also get an episode guide, an episode booklet that's included as well, as you can see there. But the discs are nicely packaged, nicely housed. The other part of this is pretty much the same, minus the booklet. I would definitely recommend this set. Columbo was even when Columbo was subpar, when the episodes were subpar, there was still something to, some good stuff to be found there. So Columbo was, it's one of those things, it's never really terrible. Ever. And so there's always a lot to embrace from the show. And it's just so great to have these on Blu-ray. I just love it. I'm just so grateful that the Kino Lorber folks have taken it upon themselves. I know that a lot of people complained that because there were some extras announced that had to be canceled for reasons that we really don't know about still. But, it's just good to have them in Blu-ray format. So let's rejoice and be thankful for what we do have. And we do have that. Paternity is another Kino Lorber release. This is Burt Reynolds in his, he was kind of going back and forth between these good old boy type roles like he did in Smokey and the Bandit, Stroker Ace, and Cannonball Run, that kind of stuff. And then he was doing these romantic comedies like Starting Over, which was released just a couple of months ago by Kino Lorber. And so they've come back with another one of his romantic comedies, this one also from the same studio, Paramount. And it's a brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the camera negative. You get a new commentary by the entertainment journalists Brian Reisman and Max Every. And really good-looking transfer on this, I would say. It's a 1981 film. Basically, Burt Reynolds doesn't want to be married, but he decides he does want to be a father. And so he considers paying Beverly D'Angelo to father his child. And you get some terrific character work from Norman Fell and Paul Dooley, great character actors of my generation that I grew up with. And it's directed by David Steinberg. And the reviews on this were kind of also Lauren Hutton and Elizabeth Ashley in this as well. The reviews were kind of tepid when this came out, but I like the romantic comedies that Burt Reynolds did. I think they're all pretty interesting, some of them better than others, and I think this one is somewhere in the middle. Not terrible, not great, but certainly worth your time. You could do a lot worse. And so thankfully, Kino has put that out on Blu-ray, thankfully. Wanna Devil is one of the 3D titles that they put out from time to time. That's the first time in 3D by the 3D Film Archive, who do a lot of great work restoring these films in 3D. And I'll let you take a look here. You get there's your case and the disc. And you get your 3D glasses, as you can see there. What you get are two different types of 3D. You get the it's presented in the normal red and green that you just saw, and then you also get the pair of anaglyphic, as I just mentioned, and you also get the polarized. And so you get two different types of the 3D. If you have the projectors, or the only way you can get monitors with 3D these days that are being currently manufactured are the projectors, which I am lucky enough to have one. If you have an older TV, you might be able to see it that way. But this has an original 1952 prologue featuring Lloyd Nolan, who is and it's the film actually stars Robert Stack, Barbara Britton, or Breton, and Nigel Bruce, and it's photographed by Joseph Byrick, who went on to do Airplane and The Towering Inferno and many other films. Great cinematographer. It's great to have this in 3D. It's a 1952 release. It was one of the first, maybe the first 3D film. They say that it kickstarted that 3D craze. I'm not sure if there had been anything before this, but it's certainly one of the early ones, being released in 1952. And it's about big game hunters and doing battle between men and beasts, it says. So anyway, but Wanna Devil, this is being released by Kino Lorber, thankfully. In and Out is another release from Kino Lorber. This is getting a first ever 4K release from the label. It's of course a nice slipcase cover there, and then you get the actual disc, similar to the slipcase, or oboe, obi, what? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about, the slipcase. So it's 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray released for the first time ever from a brand new HDR Dolby Vision master from a 4K scan of the 35mm camera negative. I took a look at this transfer, and it looks great, good. I'm not going to say great, but it's good. It's the megabytes per second. They hover in the, I would say in the 65 megabytes per second range. That's about the average for this. Not a super high bit rate on this. Some of the colors tend to be a little bit, the color tones are pretty good, but occasionally, they kind of veer into a little, they're a little smeary or something. I'm not exactly sure how to characterize them. But anyway, it's generally a good transfer, but I would say it's good, not great transfer. So, but it's certainly the best this film has ever looked. Of course, you get Matt Dillon also starring in this, along with Kevin Kline as a school teacher who is outed as being gay, although he protests that he is not. And then he starts to wonder, maybe he is. You get Matt Dillon, Tom Selleck, Debbie Reynolds, Wilford Brimley, and Bob Newhart. The last of those three in this film, unfortunately, no longer with us. Just received the news of the passing of Bob Newhart today as I'm taping this. So it's amazing. This was a 1997 film, but in the 27 years since then, we've lost three of these actors. And directed by Frank Oz. Dancing with Performers, interview with the composer Mark Scheiman. and a audio commentary by screenwriter Paul Rudnick, moderated by another person that we've recently lost, the author and film historian Lee Gambin. I had a nice friendship with him online, and I've had him on my previous podcast several times. Just a huge loss, but thankfully we do have his work here on this, as well as another title I'm getting ready to talk about. But Ins and Outs is an interview with director Frank Oz, also here, and vintage interview clips and behind-the-scenes footage. Again, this is a film that hasn't been well represented on DVD, physical media. It was one of the early releases in the DVD format because it came out the same year as the DVD format debuted. And so I'm so glad that it's finally getting its due. Because it looks good. I don't want people to think it's not worth purchasing. It's certainly worth purchasing. It's just not, reference quality, I would say. But this next title, however, is quite good in terms of quality. It's pretty amazing, actually. Can't Stop the Music. If you are a fan, I know the quality of this film is questionable. It's the one and only film starring the Village People, and produced by Alan Carr, who had previously done Grease, and he was looking for another hit in that vein, and he jumped on the disco bandwagon. Unfortunately, by the time this film came out, disco was pretty much dead, and the timing was certainly not good. So, but anyway, I always say you haven't lived until you've seen the Village People, Valerie Brine, Steve Guttenberg, and Bruce Jenner in a hot tub together, which you do get to see in this film. And this is one of those films that it's directed by Nancy Walker, who was known to certain generations as the Bounty paper towel lady in a lot of commercials back in the 70s. This is an interesting film for sure, and maybe not in a good way. But I always categorize this film as being so bad that it's actually pretty good in terms of its entertainment value. It's certainly not a good film by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good when you're watching it in a what were they thinking kind of frame of mind, I guess. But it's basically an origin story of the Village People, how the Village People came together. Steve Guttenberg is a music producer who puts them together, and it's best to be experienced. If you've not are not familiar with it, it's best to just let you see it. You know who you are if you're a fan of this film, and you know who you are if you are not. But special guests in this are the Ritchie family, the disco act from the mid to late 70s. And you also get Barbara Rush, Altavice Davis, the wife of Sammy Davis Jr., and Tammy Grimes. And this is just a really, really good transfer, though. In terms of the transfer, amazing. I checked out the bit rate. It popped up at 108 megabytes per second at one point. There's just a lot of organic film grain. It just looks really good, sounds really good. If you're a fan of Can't Stop the Music, I can't give a higher recommendation in terms of picture and sound quality for this film, because it really looks and sounds good. You get an audio commentary by, again, film critic and historian Lee Gambin, with the podcaster and Village People expert DJ Maynard, audio commentary by the fabulous Alan Carr, director Jeffrey Schwartz, and comedy writer Bruce Valanche. I think that was included on an earlier Shout Factory Blu-ray release from 2020. Interview with the Village People's Randy Jones, that was also included on the earlier release. And a theatrical trailer and TV spots. So Can't Stop the Music. Thumbs up for this release of this film, because it's really very, in terms of quality, they've really done a terrific job on this. So, and that covers all the Kino releases that we have for that I've received thus far since the last video I did reviewing some of the Kino product. And we'll move along to some Criterion titles. How about that? So a couple of Criterion titles that we have here. First of all is one of the an Oscar nominee from last year, Best Foreign Film, Perfect Days, directed by Wim Wenders. the German film director who's known for a lot of his films. He's just, he's a legendary German director. Let's just say that. I sometimes respond to his work. I sometimes don't. I wasn't sure if I would respond to this film or not. It's basically about a Japanese man who is middle-aged, I guess you would say, and he goes through his days relishing his routines. He cleans toilets for a living, but he does his job and seemingly enjoys his job. And he comes home at night. He waters his plants. He takes pictures of the trees on his lunch, and then he develops. He has a hobby of photography where he uses real cameras and real film and all of that sort of thing. And then he's really into music. A lot of this film has him playing songs in his car, and there's a lot of music, a lot of needle drops in this film, some pretty good ones too. I wasn't sure if I would get on the wavelength of this film, but by the time it was over, I was really with it. I enjoy this film. It's not a fast-paced movie, not a lot of story here. It's just basically following this guy through his routines and the people he encounters in his days. But well done. Very well done. This is a very nice transfer, too. It's a 4K release of this title. Approved by the director. You get a new interview with Wenders, interview with the actor Koji Yakusho, interview with the producer Koji Yanai, and Somebody Comes Into the Light, which is a short film by Wim Wenders, the trailer, and an essay booklet. So a beautiful film that it's hard not to like this film. So just wanted to mention Perfect Days, and there's the inside there with our main character. Beautiful film. So moving along, we have Risky Business, which is the Tom Cruise, the film that he had been in several films before this, but this was the one that really put him on the path to superstardom. And basically, his parents are out of town for the weekend, and his best friend, or one of his, maybe not his best friend, but one of his close friends, played by Curtis Armstrong from the Revenge of the Nerds films and many other things, also Better Off Dead. He urges him to seek out the company of a lady of the night, shall we say, and he does. Gets him a call girl, Rebecca De Mornay, and she invites him to take a walk on the wild side, as it's listed in the description here. That I couldn't really sum it up any better than that. And many, I guess you would say, pop culture moments that are often brought up when talking about the 1980s. Of course, the cover there is one of them. And it also made a hit out of that old-time rock and roll, which was a song that really didn't do very well on the charts, and it was used in this film, and it kind of had a second life. And so anyway, Risky Business has a director's cut and a theatrical cut. You get an actual, it's a booklet, but it's like a poster. As you can see here, I can, don't want to maybe unfold all of that. I don't know. Yeah, we will. Sure. Why not? There you go. So, you get the poster, and then you get the booklet. There you go. So really nice packaging there for Risky Business, I would say. Criterion doing a really good job. I'm having trouble. We'll worry about that later, I guess. You get the Blu-ray and the 4K, and it's a terrific transfer of this film, I would say. Just if you're a fan of Risky Business, this is a must-have. The bit rate is quite high on this as far as the megabytes per second, and it's just well done. So I want to mention one other one right quick. Is a Black God and White Devil. I didn't get a chance to look at this one. This is an existential film from Glauber Rocha, a pioneer of Brazil's socially committed cinema novo movement. It's about a man who kills his boss and goes on the run with his wife. And it's kind of like I said, an existential film is what I'm told. You get a new interview with the film scholar Richard Penna, audio commentary by the restoration producer, a documentary on the director, documentary on the Brazilian film movement, a trailer, So, time just didn't permit me to watch that one in time for the video here, so sorry about that. But Black God, White Devil from Criterion. And then we have Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which is a film that I was, this is a release I was very excited about, and it didn't disappoint. There's 4 cuts of this film here on this, three cuts, I'm sorry. There's a 50th anniversary release, the original theatrical release, and the final preview cut. The 50th anniversary release is the one that I watched. It's basically Pat Garrett is played by James Coburn. Billy the Kid is Chris Christopherson, and he's basically James Coburn's Pat Garrett. He's offered some money, and they used to be friends, and now he's his job is to kill Billy the Kid. And so Billy the Kid's sidekick is played by Bob Dylan, who also does the music, and this was one of the films that was a really troubled production, directed by Sam Peckinpah. He walked off the project. His original editors, Paul Sedor and Roger Spottiswoode, who were 2 of the 6 editors involved in this film, came back, and they did this 50th anniversary release, which is actually about 11 minutes longer than the theatrical version, and it's a much better film. It is a much, much better film. I liked the 50th anniversary version. I think it's probably the closest to his vision of the film. And so you get the transfer itself is really spectacular. It's magnificent. High bit rates. I think it was in the 80s from what I recall. But just really, really good transfer, audio and video, both. But Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, just beautiful packaging. This is a 4K release. You get the 4K discs and the Blu-rays. This is a combo pack, as it were. So, and it's just really great to have this. So many great character actors appear in this film as well, and it just blows your mind how many. You also get Dylan and Durango, which is a new interview with author Clinton Halen about the soundtrack, Passion and Poetry, Peckinpah's Last Western, which this was. And it's a new program about the making of the film, archival interview with James Coburn, and the booklet, of course. Good stuff. So, highest recommendation for Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. And then we have a couple other titles here. These are from Shout and Scream Factory. We have Boy and the Heron, which is the Oscar-winning animated film from Miyazaki. It's just a beautiful film. It's kind of autobiographical tale about a child loses his mother during the war, moves to the family's estate in the countryside, and a series of mysterious events leads him to a secluded and ancient tower. That's pretty much. I don't want to say too much about the film. It's just well done, as all are the Miyazaki films. You get feature-length storyboards, interview with composer Joe Hisaishi, interview with the producer, interview with the supervising animator, and the Spitting Globe music video, teasers, and trailers. Just a beautiful transfer, too. Just extremely high bit rates. I can't remember how high the bit rates were on this transfer, but they were up there. I can say that. And so it's just another great release. If you love great animation, you've got to have it. Miyazaki is a legend. This is supposedly his last film. Who knows? He's retired before, but you never can tell. And the last one here is Phantoms. This is based on a Dean Koontz novel. And it's about a doctor who brings her sister to this small town. And they find the town empty. There's a couple of survivors there, but other than that, just mostly empty. And there's a mysterious entity in the town that's terrorizing the folks, and can mankind survive? That sort of thing. It's a new 4K scan from the original camera negative approved by the director Joe Chappelle. And you get a new Making of Phantoms interview, new Chaos in the Flesh filming Phantoms, and the interview with the director of photography, Richard Claybaugh, or Clabaugh, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Trailer and a TV spot. Again, there's a... So yeah, there are fans of this film, and I'm glad that this film, it was one of the Dimension Films releases, which is an offshoot of Miramax. So it's good that it's out there. Starring in this film, you had Liev Schreiber, Ben Affleck, Peter O'Toole, Rose McGowan, Joanna Going. So this is... it's good to have Phantoms out there. So that's it for this latest roundup of new releases. Quite a few out there. So I would recommend anybody who was thinking of picking up some of these titles, like Pat Garrett or Can't Stop the Music, go ahead and pull the trigger, because just about all of these are good to great in terms of quality. And if you're a fan of any of these films, I would urge you to get them. Until the next time, keep those discs spinning, and thanks for tuning in.